Hey guys, it's Marcy. Thanks for tuning in to Miles to Go. In this video, I want to give a quick update on where I'm at with planning and prepping for my upcoming thru hike of the Pacific Crest Trail. So first things first, I am hiking the PCT rather than the CDT this year. In my last official update video back in December, we didn't know yet if the PCTA would be issuing permits for the 2021 season due to COVID, and I was considering the Continental Divide Trail as my plan B. However, since then, the PCTA did announce that they would be issuing the long distance permits for 2021 hikers. I applied for a permit with a 3/19 start date and was issued that permit a few weeks back. I am super excited that I get to stick to my original plan to hike the PCT this year, and I'm very pleased with the start date that I got. In addition to getting my permit, I've also booked my flight from my home here in Florida to San Diego, California, and from there I have plans to use either Ubers or public transportation to get to the PCT's southern terminus in Campo. Finally, I've also turned in my resignation notice at work. That was very exciting, and my last day there will be March 3rd. Getting the permit, knowing my official start date, buying a plane ticket, quitting my job, those things have all definitely made me feel like this is very close and very real. So now I'll get into where I'm at with planning and preparing and answer some common questions I've been getting recently about my trip. So everyone loves to talk about gear, so we'll start with that. I'd say I have things about 90% dialed down as far as gear right now. The two things I'm still working on are my sleep system and footwear and foot care system. Since I've started backpacking this year, I haven't had one single good night's sleep in the outdoors or on a sleeping pad. I've experimented with different sleeping pads and pillows, various sleep strategies, but I haven't really made any noticeable improvement in my quality of sleep in the outdoors. I still have a couple things I want to try, such as a foam pad that I recently ordered, but I've really decided at this point that it's most likely just something I'm going to need to adjust to. The advice I've most commonly gotten on hiking forums and Facebook groups is that eventually you just get so tired you can sleep anywhere on anything. Plus, your mind and body just get more accustomed and comfortable with sleeping outdoors and on the ground. As for footwear and foot care, I've been hiking around Florida the last year or so in Ultra Superiors, which I've loved. But for the PCT, I'm going to start with Ultra Lone Peaks for a little bit more ruggedness and tread or grippiness. Now I'm just trying to dial down a sock, liner, blister pad, Leukotape combination that prevents blisters over long hot days of hiking. Just from my short trip so far, I know I have an issue with blisters on the ball of my foot or just under my toes. So I've considered different pieces of advice from other hikers, and I'm experimenting with different setups to keep my feet comfortable and in good health. Speaking of feet, I also got an ingrown toenail repaired yesterday, so I'm being very proactive. For the final verdict on those couple of things and for my full list of gear choices, stay tuned. I do plan to make a big gear video right before I hit the trail with details on everything I'll be starting the PCT with. Next up is my resupply strategy. I do still have some work to do here, but this is the basic plan. Because I live all the way across the country in Florida, I want to limit the number of resupply boxes I ship from home. Basically, the only time I want to have boxes shipped from home is when I need to exchange gear, like when I need to get my microspikes and ice axe, or in a few places along the trail where resupply is known for being difficult or expensive enough to justify the shipping costs to send a box all the way from Florida. So I'm working on getting that list together, but I expect it to be pretty short. Like right now, I'll be looking at receiving 7 to 8 boxes from home. I have my extra gear along with some extra food and toiletries organized on shelves in my living room, along with priority mail boxes and shipping supplies so that my mom and sister can easily throw what I need or want in a box and ship it to me. I'm actually very lucky to have their help and support. It makes things so much easier. The rest of the time I plan to resupply in trail towns as I go, and I'm personally pretty comfortable with winging this. I trust the advice from other hikers to just figure it out as you go. I know my needs and preferences will change on the trail, and I want to be flexible enough to adjust to that. So we've covered gear and resupply. Now here's a quick look at other random stuff. The next category in my mind is just all the stuff you have to do to tidy up your life so you could be gone for 6 months without worrying about stuff. So making sure my money's in the right places and my bills are set to auto pay, adding someone I trust to my bank account, going to the doctor, getting 6 month supplies of medications, getting checkups, renewing my nursing license, doing my taxes, storing my car, on and on. I pretty much am set on all of that at this point. I'm just waiting to do the things that shouldn't be done until the week or two before I leave, like one last car cleaning and getting a haircut, etc. Another thing that's really important to me before I go is spending time with family and friends. So between now and then, pretty much every day has something on the agenda. Dinner with this friend, we can get away with dad, we can get away with mom, visit grandpa, spend time with my young nieces as much as I can, and just all of that. So I'm very family oriented, and it's important to me that I get in some quality time with them before I'm away for 6 whole months. Of course, I'm also trying to hike as much as I can. Luckily, my family likes to hike, so a lot of times I get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I even have a family backpacking trip back to Cumberland Island on the books about a week before I leave for the PCT. I haven't been able to plan as many solo overnights on the Florida Trail. I did one last week in Ocala with my sister, but it was in the same area as my last video, so I didn't make another one. Plus I got kind of sick and just didn't feel like it, but realistically I'm hoping to do maybe 1 more before I go and get that video out to you guys. Finally, I'm not one of those hikers who's memorized every landmark in town and knows exactly where I want to be and when. I don't have spreadsheets or mileage plans. I don't know, where I want to take every single zero. Sometimes people ask me if the PCT crosses such and such area or how close it goes to this or that city, and a lot of times I don't know the answer. And honestly, I'm okay with that personally. I feel prepared with the basics. I'm equipped with what I need to navigate, stay safe, and make decisions along the way. From there, I'm happy to be surprised and discover the trail as I go. A few exceptions are that I would like to have a plan or at least some ideas to consider for getting around the remaining fire closures in Southern California and maybe working on my resupply strategy specifically for the Sierras after Kennedy Meadows. Next up is answering some frequently asked questions. So as I've gotten closer to my start date and everyone in my life knows my plans at this point, I'm having more and more conversations with people about my thru hike, and a lot of those people are completely new to the concept of a thru hike and had no idea that this was a thing people did. They ask questions like, how will you get food, or where will you sleep, what about the animals, how will you communicate with the outside world, and so on. So for those people with those types of questions, here's just a quick explanation of what I'm doing. The Pacific Crest Trail is a national scenic trail that stretches from the Mexican border in California to the Canadian border in Washington. It's 2,650 miles. It's a continuous trail for hikers and horseback riders that crosses the Pacific Crest, or the highest portion of the Cascade and Sierra Nevada mountain ranges. Making a thru hike of the trail means hiking the entire trail continuously in one season, which takes most people 4 to 6 months. I've set aside just over 6 months to make the entire journey. The PCT is a well-trafficked and established trail. It's hard to say how many finish a thru hike each year, but in 2018 and 2019, more than 7,000 people applied for long-distance permits, and more than 1,000 people reported finishing. In addition to long-distance hikers, thousands of others use the trail for smaller section hikes or backpacking trips, as well as day and weekend hikes. So there is a lot of people out there. Additionally, the towns or communities near the trail are accustomed to hikers and have services and businesses established specifically for helping hikers. There are even communities of trail angels or volunteers all along the way who generously help hikers with rides, stays, resupply, and any number of things in between. So the hiking community, which includes, the hikers themselves, the people in trail towns, and the trail angels, it's known for being friendly, inclusive, helpful, supporting one another along the way. Even now, I'm part of a couple Facebook groups for PCT 2021 hikers, and for the most part, everyone is super supportive of everyone else. They're very eager to discuss strategies and exchange advice. The group is full of all kinds of people, and I'm already looking forward to meeting many of them on the trail. So with that general information in mind, let's get to some questions. First up, are you seriously going alone? Yes, I am, but it's not like I'll be spending 6 months alone in the wilderness. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of other people on the trail, and hikers tend to form groups called trail families that travel together and watch out for one another. There's actually a huge social aspect to a thru hike that many consider to be one of the best parts of it. I think that the nature of the journey lends itself well to establishing camaraderie as well as very meaningful connections and friendships. Next up is, how will you get food and water? So first of all, this isn't like Naked and Afraid. I won't be hunting and foraging. Hikers carry all their essentials in a large backpack, including a few days worth of lightweight foods at a time. So that's things like dehydrated meals, oatmeal, grits, ramen noodles, mashed potatoes, high-calorie snacks like Cliff Bars, Carnation instant breakfast, nuts, jerky, whatever. So when you come to a town, you resupply with enough food for your next stretch. Then you come to the next town and resupply again, and so on. For water, you mostly filter water from natural sources such as streams, lakes, ponds. Through dry stretches, sometimes trail angels stock water caches to help hikers out. Plus, there's the occasional random non-natural water source like a spigot or a tank. So I'll be carrying a filter plus a small supply of chemical treatment to back up my filter. I can also always boil water with my pot and camp stove if I need to. Where will you sleep? So most nights I'll sleep in my tent, which will be among my essentials in my backpack, along with a sleeping pad and a sleeping bag. Sometimes, probably every 5 to 10 days when I get to a town, I'll stay at a campground, a hostel, a motel, and maybe the occasional trail angel's home. How will you navigate? For this one, modern technology is pretty amazing. I plan to use an app called Guthook that provides a detailed map of the trail. The map shows where every water source, camping space, landmark, town, and any other point of interest could be. You can download the map for use offline and easily navigate, always knowing how far it is to the next water source or town or whatever you need. Additionally, other users can leave comments such as, "The bridge is out here," or "This stream is dry," or "This was a great place to stay, there's room for so and so many tents here," or whatever. The trail is also very well marked and generally easy to follow. I plan to do all my filming on my iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is all I've used since starting the channel. Someday I might like to upgrade for better quality, but I'm happy enough with the quality for now, and it certainly saves me a ton of weight and hassle just doing things from my phone, especially since I'll also be doing all the video editing on my phone. If anyone is curious, the video editing software I'm using is LumaFusion, which is designed for use on smartphones and tablets specifically, and is very robust. Since settling on LumaFusion, I've been editing all my videos on my phone so that I'm used to that process, and I've had zero problems working like that. The plan is to edit and post a video every 5 to 10 days when I take a zero in a town, showing the most recent leg of my journey. The biggest reason I chose the PCT over the AT is that everything will be new to me on the PCT. I've spent a considerable amount of time in the Appalachian Mountains, but I've never spent any time out west. I think that, of course, the AT would be incredible, but it's just not what I'm looking for this go around. I want to go places I've never been and see things unlike anything I've ever seen before. Finally, the number one thing I've been getting questions about is personal safety. So related to those questions, the first thing someone should know is that I'm going on this adventure to live life to the fullest, not to get myself killed. So people who know me know that I'm cautious. I'm also not doing this on a whim. I've spent hours and hours over months and months researching the trail and what I need to do and have to be safe. I've carefully selected high quality clothing and gear designed to keep me healthy, dry, and warm. And I have a safety plan that my family back home is on board with. Here are some of the specifics to that plan. First of all, I'm carrying a Garmin inReach Mini, which is a two-way satellite communication device. So even when I don't have cell reception, I can communicate with my family or call for search and rescue with the push of a button. This device is also a backup for navigation and checking the weather. I'll have it set to track my location about every 4 hours so my family can follow my progress through Garmin's map share site. I'm carrying enough battery backup to keep the device charged, and if I still run out of juice somehow, I can always turn it off to save the power in case of an emergency. I plan to send a message to my mom, dad, sister daily, but we've agreed that if they haven't heard from me in 72 hours, it's time to call the authorities. In addition to my inReach, I'll also be carrying a neck knife, pepper spray, and a body alarm or siren. When it's appropriate, I'll also carry bear spray. For hitchhiking, I'll catch a hitch with someone else whenever possible. I'll also try to snap a picture of the license plate really quickly before I get in the car. I plan to send that to my sister, then send another text once I arrive to my destination safely. I even have a plan for getting out of a hitch if I feel uncomfortable for any reason once the car stops and offers me a ride. Related to hitchhiking, also remember that the towns around the trail are mostly small communities, very accustomed to hikers trying to get around and do what they need to do. So it's not like I'll be jumping in the passenger seat of 18-wheelers off the side of the interstate. Finally, even though I'm a solo hiker, I do plan on having safety in numbers. I hope to make friends and group up with other hikers along the way, and at the very least, I want to be sure that I don't do anything sketchy like crossing a snowy pass or fording a raging river without other hikers around. The last question I'll answer is, am I nervous? And the answer to that is yes, of course I am. If I'm being honest, I'm more nervous at this point than I thought I'd be. And I think a lot of that anxiety just comes from the feeling of running out of time. I basically have a month at this point to be as ready as I can, then it's time to actually do this. Also, I'm bracing myself for the challenges I know I'll face, especially in the first few weeks. It goes without saying that it will be a huge adjustment. Despite all my planning and preparation, I can't predict what it's going to be like to be totally immersed in this 6-month hike. I know my body's going to hurt and go through some serious changes. I know there will be a learning curve and a huge psychological adjustment as well. I know I'll be uncomfortable, miserable at times, and I'm just preparing myself mentally for all of that. But despite all of that, I'm super excited. I'm so incredibly thankful for the opportunity to do this. There are so many reasons I want to thru hike the PCT, and I'm just reminding myself of those things every day. I know I'll need to keep doing that when things are tough on the trail as well. On that note, in a later video, I hope to discuss my reasons for hiking the PCT and share that with you guys, so stay tuned for that. Well, that sums it up for this video. If you have any other questions or thoughts, please leave those in the comments below. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. That's going to be the best way to stay tuned for my PCT thru hike. For those who have already subscribed and are following along, thank you so much. Obviously, my channel isn't huge, but I've really enjoyed making these videos and making connections with some of you and having dialogue on YouTube and through social media. So I love having you along for the journey, and I hope you're enjoying the videos and that you'll enjoy my PCT adventure coming up very soon.